nice job on top where it proved to be the difference in that one. It shaped up to be a completely different match than this first round match.
Well, you want a little more Virginia and Virginia Tech? We have it for you. Keating of Virginia, Brady of the Hokies. Now in a third place battle at 157. Becoming a familiar refrain here in the last several moments, really given a lot of opportunities for bragging rights to be secured between the home faithful and the folks having made the trip over from Blacksburg.
I think you always get your money's worth in the ACC. I really do. Not just the great competition, but the rivalry thing as well. It's perfect.
Of course, these two having worked their way onto this side. Brady at the hands of Ed Scott earlier today. And in the case of Keating, same thing. Ed Scott, who has now lined up that showdown with Austin O'Connor at 157 for a little bit later tonight.
These two, their match came during this regular, or the ACC season, their match came down to a very thin margin as well. So this one's going to be close.
No advantage having been snatched right out of the gate here.
Brady, a guy you will see come out, as you saw in his match against Ed Scott in the first round, was able to get to a nice explosive, like outside step high crotch and get the two, but then kind of put on the brakes thereafter. But he's a guy who can put up points in the first period.
Keating, who was a qualifier at 165 in 21. ACC runner-up in that classification, all ACC at 165, wrestling it out at 157 here against Brady. The Illinois native, 5th year at UVA.
Both wrestlers kind of fighting for whatever ties they want. Brady keeps digging that right side underhook in. Keating doing a good job keeping head position, trying to get an underhook of his own.
Well, looks to be an even first round between these two.
Another high crotch attempt for Brady. Just glances the leg.
Looking to make something of the closing seconds of this opening round. So Keating, who worked by Cleary of Pitt. Brady, who worked by Unger of Duke. With nothing settled between them after one. Those two, by the way, they'll battle it out for 5th, and this is a classification in which 5 NCAA qualifiers are available to the ACC. So that one will also allow someone to pack their bags, punch their ticket to Detroit.
It gets a little bit redundant when we start talking about depth, and I'm sure in the future of the ACC conference, we won't have to note that it is tough. But this is another weight class that maybe goes overlooked with the amount of other wrestlers in other weight classes. But it's deep. If you're in 5 qualification spots, then that's a huge deal, and that shows how good the weight class is.
Well, I think about some that were in it aren't anymore. How about Hidlay, who won it a year ago? He was the defending champion, now wrestling at 174. We've documented, and we'll see again before the day is done, his good work. He actually claimed this one a season ago, and O'Connor, who is up from 149, the top seed, even if he will have his hands full, as we said, with the great work that has been done by Scott for NC State. Going to be a North Carolina State battle in the championship round, as we have the Virginia Tech battle for the 3rd place spot. And the stoppage here is the training staff going to work on Brady for a moment.
And even though O'Connor will face a North Carolina State wrestler in Scott, I would have kind of liked to see that Hidlay-O'Connor matchup if they both met up this year and Hidlay was in the same weight class as he was prior.
Yeah, we needed him to stay put and up, down, right? You get that big matchup. would have made a difference. But boy, what entertaining moments it has provided, the movements of those two, and you can just imagine the impact they will have NCAA-wise as well.
Yeah, I guess you didn't see the Heidley-Lewis matchup coming, not moving up 2 weight classes, and then obviously it took Mackay to change a weight class too. So it does make for some entertaining stuff though throughout the conference.
Yeah, because who can imagine the season? Who can imagine the day without that battle you just referenced?
Yeah, absolutely.
1-0, the lead notched by Brady. And we're going to have another pause as they are keeping the training staff busy in this battle. Well, we were talking allocations. This a record year for the ACC with 39 of them along the way. You talk about a classification like the one we're watching right now, in which 5 wrestlers will work their way forward. Why do we talk about 39 being such a big deal? Well, look how far the conference has come in the last several years, and even from 1 year ago. You're +6 from where you were in 2021, Ty.
Yeah, and I do think that that comes into play a little bit with some of those guys taking additional years. Of course, the few that we've noted already that decided to come back for an additional year that earned eligibility after that COVID year. But as for the future, I do think that's a continued trend. I mean, if the data curve holds true, then the ACC is going to continue to get better, and I don't foresee any of these head coaches, staffs, or wrestlers taking their foot off the gas pedal. And as I say that, speaking of the gas pedal, Keating with a nice little inside trip to mount a 2-1 lead here in the second period.
So you're telling me watch for the front number to change. It may crack 40 in the very near future and even beyond for this league, which is certainly developing and trending in the right direction.
I'd say that's more likely than my investment portfolio hitting where I want it to hit.
There you go. Not saying a lot these days, though, right? 2-1 is the Keating advantage. As Keating stays in that enviable position for the last few seconds of this round. That takedown is worth taking another look at, Ty.
Yeah, absolutely. It was tremendous. You see, he pulls him into these over-unders. Big step inside, drops his left hand down to kind of secure that thigh, and then boom, he finds himself with 2. Expert level takedown right there. Now immediately to an escape on his feet is Keating. Kind of Brady. He's going to need to start working to his offense. Riding time's not a factor here. A takedown and a ride out will tie it up to send it in overtime.
Something we saw a little bit of right out of the gate in the consolation segment on this mat.
Brady doing a good job of staying inside. I think he's more than used his head position too, if you could tell by the amount of blood coming out of his nose and I think forehead. But now he's trying to take advantage of space. Nice fake from the outside. He's going to be trying to bust off a leg attack here soon, coming down to almost a minute left here in the third period.
Brady and Keating, this one the battle for third. Of course, Cleary and Unger, Pitt and Duke seeking a qualifier in the battle that will take place for fifth, and everything culminating in this weight class with O'Connor and Scott. Look at this.
In on a nice high crotch, his go-to attack. He's got to try and keep his hands locked, trying to get his hips in. Keating doing a good job of getting his hips on top. Oh my goodness, does a nice job of extending Brady.
Yeah, just able to turn there at the last possible moment, although Keating will run it to 5-1.
That's the difficulty of finishing in the third period when you're down against a good guy. You give yourself only maybe 1 or 2 attempts to get in on a leg and to get your 2 points, and that was Connor's lone attempt that he's going to have in this third period to get 2. And that's why things like that happen.
And this is one of those, Ty, where we talked about one of the great storylines of today, or one of the emerging storylines being how many of the 2 seats have been bounced over on this side. This is one of the 2 seats. Maybe not where he had hoped to be at the end of the day, but in a position to close the deal on the consolation side at least, find a way to work his way to the podium, because it's been a tough day for the 2 seeds in many ways.
Yeah, the UVA staff has to undoubtedly be proud of their guy here, especially when you're a guy who was seeded ahead, you got to be able to come back and wrestle back, and that's what's expected of you. And Keating is a great example of that right here.
So again, you're looking at a couple of NCAA qualifiers and a couple of NCAA performers, but the third place match going to Keating for his great work to give UVA a moment to cheer.